Another week we are back again, and Andrew's disappeared because
Ready. I'm ready. Wait, I'll be there in a second.
again he keeps coming up with these props. The fires in the background. There's a big fire in the background because we're going to light a fire under all of you today because we have an honorary guest from all the way up in Central Coast with his campfire in the background. Alan, if you would just show us the campfire there. There's a main reason why we have a campfire here. Oh, look at that! I'm just gonna zoom out for a little bit because it's getting a little bit warm.
All right.
We have Alan here from the Campfire Project. And the Campfire Project we'll ask you when it started because it deals with a lot of young boys, as you call it, or young men or adolescents coming into the fray, and it's really about helping them become men and giving them the right ideals as they come into the society, right? So, Alan, welcome and thanks for being here. Could you give us an idea of exactly how this all came about, how it all started, and what's the community all about?
Well, first of all, thanks for the invitation. The Campfire Project is not just for boys, but it's also for men of all ages as well. I'm a profiler, and in my business, I work with understanding people's personalities. And while I'm talking to them, I realised that a lot of men didn't know their place in the home because they thought, well, our job is to go and get the resources, come back and look after the family. At the same time, they thought that in the workplace, there was all the issues about gender equality and worried about whether they were saying the right thing and how that would be taken possibly the wrong way. And I realised that was causing frustration. Frustration was leading to anger. And in some cases, it resulted in bullying in the workplace and even domestic violence. So the Campfire Project needed to be a safe place where men could come and tell their stories, to open up, have somebody listen to them, not judge them, not counsel them, not tell them what to do or anything else, but just hold that sacred, safe space for them to be able to give themselves permission to share their stories. And in that process, it came from some of my background, spending a lot of time out bush and sitting around campfires and having really serious conversations. Because if you go back to tribal times, it was around the fires that men brought boys into manhood. But then the next stage was to take those boys and help them to become better men. And so become a man and not trying to be the man. So we see our politicians, we see our sporting stars, we see so many bad examples of behaviour. And it's not something we want to aspire to. We want to become the best version of ourselves. And who do you want around you when you're doing that? Both men and women who are doing the same thing themselves. And that's what the Campfire Project was about. So we started it with the men, first of all, telling their stories, brought them into panel discussions where we discussed things like pornography, masculinity, femininity, drugs, alcohol, all of those different issues. And I've had women in the group from day one because I realised that like Me Too and Men Too were very necessary to highlight problems, but they were never going to be the solutions. The only way we're going to solve problems is men and women working together, shoulder to shoulder, looking at the problem instead of pointing fingers at each other. And so I've had women in there so they could actually hear how men can speak when the men felt safe to do so. Once we started that, we had in the panel discussions, the women just sent me messages saying they love these guys. We've never heard men talk this way before so deeply. Can we get involved? And I went, yeah, put your hands up. We've been waiting for you. That's led into one-on-ones with the women and also with the panel discussions with men and women together. Over about 500 hours of conversations, one-on-one and panels in 3.5 years, and no bigotry, no sexism, no racism, and not once has anybody been disrespectful to anybody else. And we've even included subjects like menstruation, menopause. Does size matter in the bedroom? And you would think if anyone would cause some issues, that one was definitely going to do it. But no issues whatsoever.
Wow.
We're
Lots of different subjects.
Anyway, we'll save it for the campfire. But I suppose going through that too, it's also and some things we've been discussing lately is the reacting and responding a lot of the time we react because straight away it comes in and we think, no, this is it. But how can we actually take that information in and respond better in the questions we ask?
Yeah, just to add to that, it's more like the reactions are really from people's own that they come from that emotional point of view, and they react because they feel like they're either attacked or. And it's great to hear that there's non-judgmental around that campfire, and it's all really about listening and sort of giving different type of viewpoints and just listening to it instead of actually reacting to some of the emotional things that come out of it. I wish something like this actually existed when I was younger, because I was heavily affected in my surroundings, and I've seen lots of things that you shouldn't have seen during the teenage years, as well as just growing up. And some of the things were people being chased by machetes, and people going to jail, people having to abuse themselves from many different things, from different types of drugs as well as alcohol, to just seeing that in today's society. It seems to be quite the norm around these teenage years as well, and it's even starting. I've even seen children as young as 10 years old at some stage when they were heavily affected by these things, and they thought that these were the normal things that they should be going through, when it isn't. There wasn't really a safe space for them to grow or be in that safe environment, and that's why I think the Campfire Project sort of brings this out. What are some of the things that, or some of the things you believe that is a real hot topic at the moment?
Well, I think one of the things is, we look at young boys. You just mentioned, young boys getting involved in all these different behaviours. We've got children as young as 7 self-harming. We've got children just slightly older than that attacking their school teachers as well. We've got the social disconnect, a lot of different problems, but it all comes back to that disconnect. I know the stats are showing that somewhere around about, you can say roughly 50% of families, there's no male role models. They're either emotionally or physically absent. And in that, we've got those boys then growing up with no role models, and therefore no idea of how to become a man. And so they're acting out. We go through cycles. We look at a lot of teenagers and we think, look at them carrying on in the street, and you go, well, that's really bad. But really, they need to do something. Think of animals in the wild. The young bucks, they challenge each other in springtime. This is when they sort of, work for who's the alpha, and they find their positioning. Well, the teenagers need to do that, but if there's no older men around to guide them on what to do after that, they just continue doing the same thing into later years. So we get a lot of these old males who are still nothing but boys. And so that disconnect, we really need. The major issue is we don't have the communities working together as we used to have. The father's role was not to turn his son into a man. His role was to get him ready for the process he would go through. And it was all the men in the village that were part of that process, because the boy would spend time with the other men, look at each of them and go, yep, I like that bit of that guy. I like a bit of that one. I don't really like that, so I'll leave that alone. And they create their own identity. And therefore, they're uniquely different to everybody else from day one as they step into manhood. And so they're of value. But if they don't have any guidance, they've got nowhere to go. It's like having a boat without a rudder. You put it out in the water, it's just going to go wherever the tide pushes it. And that's what's happening with a lot of our youth today. So we definitely need more men involved in the arrangement. They don't have to be in a romantic relationship with the mothers. If the mother's separated from their partners, they just have to have the right men around who can help guide their sons into manhood.
You talked about disconnect there. Are there any stories you can share of disconnect that come in through the campfire, and they went the challenges they went through, and then the outcomes where there was connection?
I'm really careful about what I share, what happens in the Campfire Project, because it's always been a case of making sure that the people who tell their stories are fully protected. The only way people can hear their stories is by coming to the Campfire Project. What I always say to the people who are listening on the outer world here today, if you want to hear some of those stories, come into the group. But we've had one of the first guys I interviewed, he was 6 years old when his brother sold him for sex, and those rapes went on for 3 years. And then it was physical and emotional abuse from his mother and brother until he finally left home. Another guy who grew up in a house full of domestic violence, he was 15 years old while he watched his father stab his mother to death, and he was protecting his two younger brothers and sisters while this was going on. So the things that they've gone through, and then to go through that and then not have any real support around them, for those men who will actually come back and will work in those areas, in domestic violence or in reducing child sex slavery and things like that, you've got to take your hat off to them and just say the amount of character they've had to be able to come back and do that. And that's one of the things why we wanted the Campfire Project. So we had more people there to support the people who were going through things like that. So anybody can come into the Campfire Project and put their hand up and tell their story. We hold the space. We do not judge. We do not counsel them. We don't tell them anything that they're supposed to do, anything else. We just give them the 2 ears and 2 eyes that they needed to finally have somebody take notice of what they were talking about. I sit there and, if I'm interviewing them, quite often I don't talk for a very long time. Once they're talking, I just let them talk, because the unconscious mind will take them where that conversation needs to go. If I ask them questions, I'm steering the conversation. So the people who come in and tell their story, they're totally in charge. They tell their story one-on-one. We do record it in Zoom. But at the end of it, if they say, look, I don't want anyone to see that, we hit the delete button. I've had a few people say, well, if I did that, have you wasted your time? I went, no, my job was to hold your space. We've done it. If somebody else gets to hear your interview, then that's a bonus for the other people. And, if they're coaches, they come in and talk about why they're coaching today, what they went through in the past. It's the best advertising you can have for yourself, because that's your credibility. And people know it's not just somebody who's learned from a book or gone to a weekend course, but somebody who actually understands the situation, has worked through it. So a lot of them are actually picking up, that have done the one-on-ones, are picking up clients. And some are, those coaches getting together and creating joint ventures. If they make money by having clients, that's brilliant. Campfire Project is designed to not make money. We don't spend money. We don't make it, so to speak. It's just there. We volunteer our time. We've got a lot of people who are stepping up. And I noticed there's a comment there from Kim Dunlop,
Yes.
one of our members in the group. And she's put so much time into the group as well. So these people like her are what makes the Campfire Project. All those people who come in, step up, tell their stories, and then want to get involved and help other people. That's why it's not a tribe, it's a community, and it's gone global. And that's why the hashtag We Together is so important, because together we can solve the problems. We can't solve the problems while we're looking at each other as the problem.
I love that. So check out that hashtag, We Together, and you'll find a little bit more information on the web about the Campfire Project. I love how you were talking about some of the things there. It delves into people's traumas, because especially if something's happened a long time ago and it becomes a deep-seated problem, it still affects a lot of people as they become older, because it's something that not only stays in your subconscious, it also affects a lot of the things that happen in the future if you haven't dealt with them properly. So this is quite important for a lot of people who might be listening today. If something's happened and you haven't even talked about some of your traumas, these are some of the things that we want to make normal and normalize a lot of these conversations with mental health. And, it is safe for you to talk about it, and it's something that the Campfire Project community is diving into.
Okay. So let me add to that. If you look at it, when I'm a profile, and one of the things I had to realize earlier on was that everybody is suffering or has suffered everybody wears a mask. Number 3 is that everybody pretends they're not wearing a mask, and everybody is a result of all their childhood experiences and rewards. So all the suffering that we went through younger, as you just said, it's in our DNA. We carry that through into later life. If we don't deal with it, it just keeps coming back. Now, when we talk about mental health, as far as I'm concerned, everybody is on the scale. Hopefully we're down one end and not at the other end, but we're on a sliding scale all the time. It depends on the situations that happen around us, where we are. So day by day, we can be anywhere on that scale, and we can slip down the other end very quickly. So the more we understand that and realize that everybody else is going through those different things in their own way, we can have empathy for them, and we can also have more empathy for ourselves, and don't judge ourselves so badly because we're not dealing with things. We're human. We're mostly emotional. Once we understand that, then we can sit down, we can start having conversations and start to open up more.
It's just, I mean, there's so much that we can unpack in it, and I think it's great what you're doing. It's because sometimes you get it where not everyone is keen to speak straight away, but it can take time and that comfort zone as well. So, and I mean, you talked about community and tribe and having that around you, that it can take time to be there and give you a story of it and try and find those trusted connections to be there, which I'm sure the Campfire Project has had some great success in.
Yeah, well, see, we've had a lot of men who have said they've been disconnected from their fathers. They haven't spoken to them for a long time. In the conversations that we've had, they've actually come up with ideas on, well, how could they go and talk to their fathers? One in particular, he hadn't spoken to his father for many years. He decided that he wanted to interview his father, not to find fault with him, but to understand why he made the decisions that he made and why he left the home. And so he's now created a relationship with his father. And that relationship now is extended through to his son. So you've got, grandfather, father and son now connected where they weren't connected before. And it's setting the environment where it's safe to be able to talk without judgment, that people can then work through those issues. Because I said those 4 points that we're carrying all the time are holding us back. And so, again, it's just important to have the right people around you to make sure that you're able to work your way through. So I will share one thing while we've got you on the line there as well, is that 2 of the guys have put together a group called the Business of Smiles. They've got these yellow socks that they hand out, and the socks themselves, little black dots, the tough times you're going to go through in your life, you're not going to get out of them. They're always going to hit you. The yellow is the warmth of the winter sun, the camaraderie, the right support when you have it around you. They're about to hand these out, about 10,000 of them. They're doing a run from Sydney to Melbourne. They're going to hand out 10,000 of these to start 10,000 conversations on mental health. So that's a great
idea.
I love it.
It's, everybody, and these people have come up, we've had the Campfire Project as a place where they could get together. They've come up with these ideas. And I know that there's more people looking at new ideas on what they can do. So the Campfire Project has been a catalyst to bring those people together, and for those people then to go out and go well beyond anything I've done. Because as I say, a leader's job is to make themselves redundant. And that's to raise other people up to do what they can do, hopefully just as well, if not better, preferably better, so that the person who was leading in the first place can go on and do other things, and those other people can then grow what was created to a greater level again. And that's exactly what's happening in the Campfire Project.
Well, we're always needing new pairs of socks, so I'd happily take it there. Thanks.
Yep, send them across to us, because we're doing we're setting up a whole network that will span across the whole east coast of Australia. So we're quite interested in working and collaborating with a lot of people. So send them across to us, and we'll send them across to a couple of other people, and we'll connect them to other people as well. And we need to get more people into the Campfire Project. So stay tuned. We'll bring some more people in that could possibly help with many different angles, and from some of the people that we're sort of we're currently talking with and sort of bringing into to the whole network. So Yeah, well, we'll keep collaborating and keep working together. I love it. So kudos to you for starting this great community, and I'll see you in there. We're up at 20 minutes at the moment, so we'll have to say goodbye to everyone until next week. Thank you
Kim
for coming,
for
Alan.
the comments. So do you want to read
And
Kim commented there? The Campfire is an amazing project, very safe and open conversations between men and women. So.
And Doug Garth saying, great chat indeed. And we'll be talking more about these things and having Alan come back with a couple of other people on mental health. So stay tuned. We'll be looking at producing a lot more content around mental health. Until next time. Thanks again, Alan.
Thanks very much. See you all later. Bye for now.
See you all.